butt worms.
Not anymore, he's getting fat again.
Oh, Tate doesn't have butt worms.
No, it's a good thing.
Aaron's sleeve has butt worms.
Bigger balls.
Go ride a camel, Brittany.
Shut up, David!
I'm just kidding, dude.
Are we done?
You don't have kids.
Cool?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Trey the Ruler, and these first few are some old ones off the record called Dark Arts.
Today is the end of the world, I promise. On this day and time, I predicted we'd die, all of us. Fire will flood the streets and water will burn everything that we've looked up to. All that we've anticipated is taken by this man with a book of interpretations. So I've been slaving over a hot stove for a meal I'll never get to eat. Putting in the hours for a future I don't get to see. And you insisted this was important, that it all paid off and meant. And all these feelings that I hoarded when I didn't have a friend. Wasted is what I am, says this pig from the stand. No higher than bar stools with these numerals to decide when I end. And in case it isn't obvious, I don't really believe this. But if it's not now, it's then, and all these dates are getting strenuous. Like the things I planned for next week and how I don't know if they'll be there. It keeps the country in a high hold. It keeps the public scared because we all fear what we're unsure of, but we're unsure of this. Whether this guy's for real or if he's just full of shit. And I guess we'll find out. I've grown so sick and dreary of this same spinning ceiling. While I lie on the floor, my thoughts are so eerie that they turn graves like you turn pages of my writing. This constant fighting with the ground, yelling, "Please subside me!" Because I can't defy this gravity more than I can with death. But to come close, I hold my breath, just long enough to convince the bird in my head that I'm almost dead. And at the last second, I suck in oxygen so deep that I choke. It's like my lungs are broke. I'm coughing out black chunks, but I've never smoked. And it's not because of the taste, but for these long-term effects. And that avoidance for health risk seems so pointless now. Now that we're going to be sucked into the ground or into the sky and then thrown out of this loud tornado to end this tragic book that we've been adding to. And your attitude couldn't be more bitter. But maybe you should down it like a pill to block out sadness before dinner, because we won't make it to the meal anyway, because we only eat when he goes away. And he's been gone for quite a while now, and he's coming back to capture anyone who believes that this is the rapture. So tomorrow you'll either go away or I'll be stuck in laughter, saying I knew it wouldn't happen, but honestly, I wasn't sure. Thank you. And when I wrote this, I wish I could say I was in a dark place. But what evokes within the side of me is something I can't say. The dismay I felt when I was told that July was going to be cold and that I might die when I was this old. As a teenager, and they didn't say a thing when we graduated. Where these long-term goals were something to celebrate, and with the hate that was inflicted, how mapping was insisted, you twisted my wrist and force-fed me ambitions. To fall for something with false pride and honor. But the 7-day forecast says that we're all goners, so why try? Is where my mind's stuck between harvesting every minute and not giving a fuck, and as I flip through the pages of every single book to try to account for all the motivation that you took from me. And anyone else who hears this coward in the box announcing, the end is near. And when you speak, I try not to let it soak through my skin and tar. But there's breaks in the pavement and they cut pretty hard. And to my bad tendencies that feed me tarot cards like literature to lure me into the dark arts. And it's working. This next poem is called Spiders, and I wrote it when my father taught me the difference between a cobweb and a spider web, because I thought they were always the same thing, and a cluster of webs is the same, but cobwebs are actually formed from dust, and spider webs are formed from the actual bug itself. And I realized that a lot of time in life, when we get stuck in predicaments, we think they're spider webs, and we think that there's no way we can get out of those predicaments in this stage in our life, but then we pull through, and then we realize it was just a cobweb and just a collection of dirt from other things around us, rather than somebody actually trying to attack you, or something trying to attack you. And then when you're stuck in a spider web, and how you may think maybe it's a cobweb and you'll pass through, or maybe you know it's a spider web and you know that there's no saving you, and you slowly watch your life be taken from you, from somebody else, or from a disease, or from an actual other being. And there's a huge significance between the difference of both those things, and this is kind of about that. It's called Spiders. I told you I hit the cobwebs, but I denied the truth. At the same time, being that I got caught up in a few, and I can't tell you that I missed a single thing from last week. It's more of a blur when life is moving so slowly. I can feel, I can hear, I can sense the crumblings, cracks in the sky, and this thunder is like a drum sync. There's something in the bushes every time I pass them. There's no looking for the spirits I've already burned through and ashed them, brushed them off my shoulder like good and evil is a chip. And this keyhole is a tip, this old philosophy is gripped by crumbling mints, sift through sifted, and I admit that I've submitted my application for forgiveness from a higher. But I get declined, undermined, and eaten by the spider, whose guts are filled with fire, but I don't blame the gates for their hate. I wouldn't take me either. So what do I have to achieve to consider me a functioning part of this fucking society? Is it when I'm not lost and alone? Is it the long walks home? Is it setting an alarm for a place that I don't want to go, don't want to be? Is it worth the money? How much does this roof over your skull really mean? When it's emptied by pointless tasks, nothing really lasts. When you feel like you're trapped in the 8 legs of brass, and this spider's gotten a hold of me. Grip when I'm supposed to be fighting these demons. I'm feeling hollow but not holy. I can't control these tendencies. Maybe I should just go the safer route so I won't end up failing. But then I feel more unaccomplished than when I'm stuck in the cobwebs. I'm looking for a lift out of my self-conscious. I'm trying to be honest, but when I think I got it, I get caught up in everything I didn't get, but I wanted. Thank you. This next one's called Water Tower. It's about how every single one of us in this room has developed a standard from the people around us of what's accepted and what's not accepted, and how we all build our own barriers in our brains, like what we can do and what we can't do because of the people around us, whether we're at a show or whether we're at work or school or any other form of people. There's things that you can't do and be accepted, and how we build those barriers ourselves, and they're not real barriers, and how as soon as you overcome those and break through those bounds, you realize who you really are, and that is what life's all about. That value that you find in that moment is better than what anyone else thinks about you, because you truly have that clarity, and how rare it is to actually finally accept yourself for who you really are and break the barriers, despite what other people think. This is kind of what that's about. It's called Water Tower. Thank you. I have void underneath my skin, and these regrets cling to my muscles. I'm soaking in my environment like scum to a sailboat, searching for a lighthouse, hillside, or a break. From me to my head to this dream of a grave, because some get entombed in stone, and some get burnt and thrown, and some continue to breathe as an undertow. For everyone else's potential to climb mountains, they're pulling us down. And in the city fountain is where I've come to drown, because I want you to see me motionless. All the emotions in my guts have clinged to the edges of my stomach, and won't let go like teenage love over its first summit. Because someone starts the path and then the rest follow. But the leader catches the cobwebs through the dark gallows. The lower you go, the more admirable the peak. But this path is shade of all I hate in the sunlight I don't see. So what distance do I have to travel before it stops getting harder? And how long do I have to sail before I reach the harbor? And when will I catch a break before I break into? And who do I have to barter to get a chance to prove that I mean the words I speak? And these words I speak, they live inside of me, stuffed like an envelope of conspiracies of this alienated hope that floats while we attempt to find the breeze to take us where we need to go, and out of the hurt. We're all trapped in our mentalities like the water tower above the dirt. And we struck a wall that we built out of fear and avoidance, but risk is life, and this life, it's love. So, I'm destroying it. I live my life like the mystery of a blind man's dream, or the self-dialogue of a deaf mentality. You don't know what you create if you have nothing to compare it to, but a voice, a listener, a life. These are just communication tools. But I want to shatter the silence into 1,000 shards and piece it together with cut hands just for the art, and where each part placed forms a mosaic. Where each part forms a mosaic. On the window is where I place it, so when the sun shines through, you can see what I've created. And when I speak, it's to bring more light and to make these colors burn. Project these thoughts in the overhead, and hopefully you can learn that the sacrifice for art is what makes it admirable. Wrap gauze around these tattered hands, knowing that it's my fault for this quiet collective that can be taken as elective or enlighten your thoughts or help you forget them. But when I stop and break for a pause, you and I both know that we'll be left with our thoughts. Because if we're not paying attention, then we're not spending it wisely. And I keep learning lessons through these people that despise me. I can sure understand anger, but not violence. So don't hide it behind eyelids or take shame in feeling only when you express it through nonsense. Villain or civilian, guilty are innocent. Your life is only as valuable as your seasonal militants. Thank you. This next poem is called Pelican, and I wrote about how I've put myself in self-destructive situations frequently in my life, and how, as for anybody, that can be a really, really bad habit to get into, and how it can lead to a lot of really horrible things in your life, and it's not a good thing to have happen, and it's completely controllable by ourselves, and so that's kind of what this is about. It's called Pelican. Where did she go? Did I lose her in the orange clouds? And what's the antidote for the poison of a letdown? I'm sick and you infected me. Hard weather and disease. I'm at disease in my own room. Call it a quarantine. Because I can't hold her, so I hold this satire of pretty skies from forest fires, and I'm waiting for the trees to fall and the planes to crash. I'm waiting for my heart to retire. But that's not going to happen unless the world snaps in pieces. You can't balance a broken beams, but I guess the wind has its reasons. Maybe it's for the birds' benefit, but they're flying away from it because they can sense the storm, and the storm's coming towards the pelicans. The eloquence of timber crashing sounds like violins when no one's actually listening. Much like this, we're missing the current tragedy that's happening. Everything is experienced, so harvested. The amazing and the hardship, sleep on hardwood or carpet because the bed clings the scent of the one I can't hold. So I hold this satire of pretty skies from forest fires, and I'm waiting for the trees to fall and the planes to crash. I'm waiting for my heart to retire. But I guess that can happen, and this could be a reminder of what's good and lost. Like a widow with 3 kids and a broken wristwatch. She can't turn back time to when it was on his arm. And so was she. She felt like queen, but royalty does get harmed. She didn't know that he was broken because he always put her first. Hoping it would fix itself, but fake it till you feel it doesn't always work. He was trapped, cornered, and he was his own enemy. He had hate for himself, but love for his wife and family. But it wasn't enough, and the pain overcomes. Rose made a room with the brush of a gun, and his son found him on the floor in the mess of the storm. It was a picture of deception in the frame of the door, and they can't hold him no more, so they hold the satire of pretty skies from forest fires, and they're waiting for the trees to fall and the planes to crash. They're waiting for their pain to retire. First off, I want to thank the Red Room for putting on the show. I've seen a tremendous amount of improvement in the way this room functions and just the energy that's inside of it since it first opened. So can you give it up for everyone involved? I also want to give a lot of credit to all the bands that are playing tonight. The Sheds and I are going on a full U.S. tour, and they're amazing. And so if you, honestly anything can help. We have merch available back there. Gas is like stupid expensive right now. So honestly, everything that you give us is going to end up going either in our gas tanks or in our stomachs. That's the way we want to live for the next 6 weeks. Give it up for the Sheds and make sure you stay for theirs. This last poem I want to do, I wrote before I left for tour, and it's called Halloween, and I did it once last night in Portland, and that's the only time I've ever done it before, so bear with me with it. I wrote it about how I realized so many people that are my age and share the same bracket of youth work at call centers, and in other places where their minds aren't being used to their full capacity, and how I know they can be greater than the people that work above them and people that are telling them what to do, and how, you know, everyone finds themselves in dead-end jobs and finds themselves in these predicaments in life, and then it's not getting in that's the hard part, it's getting out, and how I see a lot of people I absolutely love the way they are working at places like that, and I really, really don't want them to fade away from who they are just because they work in this dead-end job, and I just want to make sure that they stay the way they are, and how I'm scared that they won't stay that way. And that's kind of what this is about. It's called Halloween. If I'm in a room with you, that means I choose to be. And lately I've grown more fond of this sharing, yet occasionally I'm quieter because the bravery in the fighter is self-taught, and I'm still teaching myself how to make everything I want appear. Out of thin air, and you can stare at me if you will, as I shake off the chills with these filled winter coats. You have to live the life you chose, because if you don't, you're living half a life. No better than the ghost, and you don't have to die to pass away. I've seen it in eyes and in the face, under the mask that you create. As your features dissipate, I beg for them to come back. Please come back and collect your skin. The longer you wait, the harder it is. You're stronger than us, kid. See, we build these lives around finances. Say we'll get out and take our chances, but before we know it, love and time passes in the vessel of youth while our feet were planted, but our minds were spinning. It was the windmills of the willing conducting energy that came so easy, but we wasted, working blindly and living shyly, becoming the ghost that walks beside me, and we took that on by choice, meaning this is something that we could avoid, but I haven't been a phantom since I was a boy. But every day is Halloween when you're not the same underneath, the mask or two holes cut into a sheet. Bolt sticking out your neck, you're a man-made machine. And I can see the fall breath through the fangs in your teeth. You're sitting in a waiting room, putting on a different costume, pretending this new disguise is your identity. And I really hope you change back. Thank you, I'm Trey the Ruler.